On a rainy night in Chicago, Michael Jordan's car broke down. Under a nearby bridge, he saw a homeless man dribbling a tennis ball. When Michael got closer, he couldn't believe his eyes that it was Coach T, the man who taught him basketball when he was just 14 years old. The coach who believed in him when nobody else did. Now he was living on the streets with nothing but an old envelope. But what was in that envelope that Coach T had been hiding for 40 years? And why would Michael's response to this discovery change everything? The rain hit Michael Jordan's windshield like tiny bullets. He turned up the wipers and squinted through the gray October evening. Chicago looked different now than it did when he was a kid growing up here. Bigger buildings, more traffic. But some things never changed, like the weather. October in Chicago always meant rain. Michael was driving to another charity event downtown. Another fancy dinner where rich people would write big checks and feel good about helping kids. He did dozens of these events every year. They were important, but sometimes they all felt the same. His phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Probably his assistant reminding him not to be late. Michael Jordan was never late. Well, almost never. That's when his car started making a weird noise. "Come on," he said to the steering wheel. "Not tonight." The noise got louder. Then the car started shaking. Michael pulled over near the Dan Ryan Expressway. The engine made one last angry sound and then went quiet. He sat in the driver's seat for a moment, watching the rain. Cars rushed past him on the highway. Everyone was in a hurry to get somewhere warm and dry. Michael pulled out his phone to call for help. While he waited, he looked around. This wasn't the nicest part of Chicago. Old buildings, empty lots, not many streetlights. The kind of place where people tried not to break down. Under the bridge ahead of him, Michael saw shapes moving in the shadows. Homeless people, probably. They always gathered under bridges when it rained. Michael had seen them before, but he usually looked away. It made him feel helpless. What could one person do about such a big problem? But tonight, something made him keep looking. One of the shapes looked familiar. An old man was sitting on a piece of cardboard, trying to stay dry. He had a shopping cart filled with bags and bottles. His clothes were torn and dirty. But something about the way he sat reminded Michael of someone. Michael squinted through the rain. The old man was bouncing something in his hands. A basketball? No, it was too small. Maybe a tennis ball. But he was dribbling it like a basketball. Even sitting down, even in the rain, he was practicing dribbling. That's when Michael's heart stopped. He knew that dribbling style. He knew those hand movements. He had learned them himself, 46 years ago, from a coach who changed his life. Michael got out of his car. The rain soaked through his expensive suit in seconds. He walked slowly toward the bridge, his dress shoes splashing through puddles. The old man didn't notice him at first. He was too focused on his tennis ball. Dribble, dribble, switch hands. Dribble, dribble, switch hands. The same drill Michael had practiced 1,000 times as a kid. "Excuse me," Michael said softly. The old man looked up. His face was weathered and thin. His hair was gray and messy. But his eyes were the same kind eyes Michael remembered from long ago. "Coach T," Michael whispered. The old man stared at him. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked confused, like he was trying to remember something important. "Coach Theodore Brennan." Michael tried again. "From the summer basketball camp?" The old man's eyes got wide. He dropped his tennis ball. It bounced away into the darkness. I know you," the old man said. His voice was rough and quiet. "But I can't remember." Michael knelt down in the mud next to him. The rain was coming down harder now, but he didn't care about his suit anymore. "Remember the drill you taught me?" Michael said. "Left hand, right hand, behind the back? You said I had to practice it 100 times before I could go home." The old man smiled. Just a little smile, but it was there. "You always wanted to go home early," he said. "But I made you stay. I made you practice." "That's right, Coach T. You made me practice because you said I was special. You said I could play in the NBA someday." The old man's smile got bigger. His eyes got clearer. "Little MJ," he whispered. "Michael Jordan? Is that really you?" "Yeah, coach. It's really me." Theodore Brennan started crying. Not loud crying, but tears mixed with the rain on his face. "I watched you play," he said. "On TV. All those championships. I was so proud of my little MJ." Michael felt his own eyes fill up with tears. This man had been his first real basketball coach. The one who taught him that size didn't matter. The one who believed in him when nobody else did. And now he was living under a bridge. Coach, what happened to you? Michael asked. How did you end up here? Theodore looked away. Long story. Bad things happened. Lost everything. I didn't want to bother you. You became so famous, so important. I was just an old coach. Just an old coach. Michael stood up and held out his hand. Coach, you're the reason I became Michael Jordan. You're the most important coach I ever had. Theodore took his hand and slowly stood up. He was smaller then. Michael remembered. Thinner. But when he smiled, he looked like the same man who had taught a 14-year-old boy to believe in himself. Come on, Michael said. Let's get you out of this ring. I don't want charity, Theodore said. I still have my pride. This isn't charity, Michael said. This is family. Your family, Coach T. Theodore looked at Michael for a long moment. Then he nodded as they walked toward Michael's car. Theodore reached into his coat pocket and touched something. An envelope. Old and worn, like he had carried it for many years. MJ, he said quietly. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Michael helped Theodore into the passenger seat. What is it, Coach? Theodore held the envelope tight. His hands were shaking, but not from the cold. Not tonight, he said. I'm not ready tonight. But soon. I promise I'll tell you soon. Michael started the car. The engine worked fine now, like it had just been waiting for the right moment to start again. As they drove away from the bridge, Michael looked at his old coach. Theodore was staring out the window at the city lights. He still had that envelope in his hands. What could be so important that he had carried it all these years? And why was he so scared to share it? Michael didn't know it yet, but that envelope contained a secret that would change everything he thought he knew about his basketball career. A secret about sacrifice, love, and the price of believing in someone's dreams. But that secret would have to wait. Tonight, Michael Jordan had found his homeless former coach living under a bridge. And his response was about to change everything for both of them. Michael drove through the quiet Chicago streets. Theodore sat next to him, still holding that mysterious envelope. The rain had stopped, but the windows were still foggy. Where are we going? Theodore asked. Somewhere warm, Michael said. Somewhere safe. As they drove, Michael's mind went back to the summer of 1977. He was 14 years old and thought his basketball dreams were over. He had just been cut from his high school team. The coach said he was too small, too weak, too slow. Michael remembered crying in his bedroom that night. His mother, Dolores, had found him there. Maybe I'm just not good at basketball, he had told her. Maybe you just need the right teacher, she had said. The next week, she signed him up for a summer basketball camp on the south side. It wasn't fancy like the other camps. Just an old gym with squeaky floors and broken windows. But it was cheap, and it was close to home. Michael didn't want to go. He was tired of being embarrassed. Tired of being the kid who wasn't good enough. But his mother made him go anyway. First day of camp, Michael walked into that old gym feeling sorry for himself. About 20 kids were there, all different ages. Some were tall, some were short. Some looked like real basketball players. Others looked like Michael felt lost. Standing in the middle of the court was a man in his 30s. He wasn't very tall, maybe 5'8". He had kind eyes and a gentle smile. His hair was starting to turn gray, even though he wasn't old. Welcome to basketball camp, the man said. I'm Coach Theodore Brennan, but you can call me Coach T. Michael almost laughed. This guy was going to teach them basketball? He was shorter than some of the kids. I know what some of you are thinking, Coach T said, like he could read Michael's mind. You're thinking I'm too small to be a basketball coach. You're thinking, this gym is too old. You're thinking this camp won't help you. He picked up a basketball and started dribbling. But not regular dribbling. He was doing tricks. Behind his back, through his legs, with both hands at the same time. The ball moved like it was connected to his hands by invisible strings. Basketball isn't about how tall you are, Coach T said, still dribbling. It's about how big your heart is. It's about how much you want to get better. It's about never giving up, even when people tell you you're not good enough. He stopped dribbling and looked right at Michael. Especially when people tell you you're not good enough. That first day, Coach T made them run drills. But not regular drills. He made them dribble with their eyes closed. He made them shoot with their weak hand. He made them practice footwork without a ball. Basketball is like dancing, he said. You have to feel the rhythm. You have to move with the music, even when there's no music playing. Michael was terrible at first. He tripped over his own feet. He dribbled the ball off his shoe. He missed. shot after shot. But Coach T never yelled at him, never made him feel stupid. Instead, he would walk over and show Michael the right way to do it. Don't think so much, Coach T would say. Trust your body. Trust your instincts. The other kids were getting better faster than Michael. Some of them were naturally gifted. Others had been playing longer. Michael wanted to quit a dozen times that first week, but something about Coach T made him stay. Maybe it was the way he looked at Michael, like he saw something that wasn't there yet, but could be. You're different, Coach T told him one day. After practice, you work harder than anyone else. You care more than anyone else. That's going to matter someday. Every day that summer, Michael got to the gym early and stayed late. Coach T was always there with him. They would work on the same drills over and over. Dribbling, shooting, footwork, defense. Repetition builds muscle memory, Coach T explained. Practice makes permanent, so we better practice the right way. But Coach T taught him more than just basketball skills. He taught him how to watch other players and learn from them. He taught him how to stay calm under pressure. He taught him how to be a leader, even when he was the smallest guy on the team. Most importantly, he taught him that failure wasn't the end of the story. It was just practice for success. Every time you miss a shot, you're learning how to make the next one, Coach T said. Every time you fall down, you're learning how to get back up. Champions aren't made when they win. They're made when they lose and decide to keep trying. By the middle of the summer, Michael was getting better. He was still short, but he was quicker. He was still weak, but he was smarter. He was learning to use his brain instead of just his body. The other kids started to notice. They picked him first for scrimmage games. They asked him to be on their teams. For the first time in his life, Michael felt like he belonged on a basketball court, but the real change wasn't in his basketball skills. It was in his confidence. Coach T had taught him that being small didn't mean being weak. Being young didn't mean being helpless. Being different didn't mean being wrong. You have something special, Coach T told him near the end of the summer. I can't tell you what it is, because you have to find it yourself. But I can tell you this. If you keep working, if you keep believing in yourself, you're going to do great things. On the last day of camp, Coach T pulled Michael aside. I want you to remember something, he said. No matter how famous you become, no matter how successful you get, never forget where you came from. Never forget the people who helped you along the way. And most importantly, never forget to help other people the way someone helped you. Michael promised he would remember. He meant it at the time. But life got busy. High school, college, the NBA. Years passed like pages in a book he was reading too fast. He never forgot Coach T's lessons. But he forgot to say thank you. Now 46 years later, Michael looked at Theodore sitting in his car. The man who had changed his life was homeless and alone. The man who had taught him about loyalty and friendship had been forgotten, but not anymore. Coach T, Michael said as they pulled up to a nice hotel. I have a lot to make up for. Theodore looked at him with those same kind eyes. You don't owe me anything, MJ. Watching you succeed was payment enough. But Michael knew better. He owed Theodore everything, and he was going to spend the rest of his life paying it back. The envelope in Theodore's hands seemed to glow in the hotel lights. Whatever secret it contained, Michael was about to find out just how much his old coach had sacrificed for him. Michael helped Theodore out of the car and into the fancy hotel lobby. People stared at them. Michael Jordan in his expensive suit, walking with an old homeless man who smelled like the streets. Michael didn't care what they thought. He walked straight to the front desk. I need your best room, he told the clerk. And I need it now. The clerk looked at Theodore, then back at Michael. Sir, I'm not sure. Did I stutter? Michael's voice was firm, but not angry. Get me a room. Get me 2 rooms. The best ones you have. Within minutes, they were in the elevator heading to the top floor. Theodore held his envelope close to his chest. His hands hadn't stopped shaking since they got in the car. This is too much, MJ, Theodore said quietly. I don't need anything this fancy. Yes, you do, Michael said. You need a hot shower, clean clothes, and a good meal. Then we're going to talk. The hotel room was beautiful. Big windows showed the Chicago skyline. Soft beds with white sheets. A bathroom bigger than some apartments. Theodore stood in the doorway like he was afraid to go inside. Go ahead, Michael said. It's yours. While Theodore cleaned up, Michael ordered room service. Soup, sandwiches, fruit, coffee. Food that would be easy on an old man's stomach. He also called his assistant and canceled the charity dinner. Tell them I had a family emergency, he said. Because I did. An hour later, Theodore came out of the bathroom. He was wearing a hotel robe and slippers. His hair was clean and combed. He looked 20 years younger, but also 20 years more tired. They sat at the small table by the window. Theodore ate slowly, like he hadn't had a real meal in weeks. Maybe he hadn't. Thank you, he said between bites. I forgot what hot soup tasted like. Don't thank me yet, Michael said. I want to know what happened to you. How did you end up on the streets? Theodore put down his spoon. He looked out the window at the city lights. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. It's a long story, he finally said. I've got time. Theodore sighed. You remember my wife, Sarah? Michael nodded. He had met her once at the end of that summer camp. A nice lady with a warm smile. She got sick in 1994, Theodore said. Cancer. We fought it for a year, but, he shrugged. She died in 1995. I'm sorry, Michael said. I didn't know. The medical bills were terrible. Even with insurance, we lost everything. Our house, our savings, everything. But I didn't care about the money. I just wanted her back. Theodore's eyes filled with tears. After she died, I couldn't teach anymore. Couldn't coach. Every time I looked at those kids, I thought about the kids Sarah and I never had. The family we never got to raise. He picked up his coffee cup with shaking hands. I retired in 1995, sold what was left of our stuff, and moved to a small apartment. I thought I could live quietly, you know? Just watch TV and remember better times. But that didn't work out, Michael said. No, it didn't. My health started going bad. Diabetes first, then my blood pressure. Then I had a stroke in 2003. Theodore touched the side of his head. It messed up my memory, my speech. I couldn't think straight sometimes. The medical bills started piling up again. Michael, listen quietly. He was thinking about 2003. That was when he came back to play for the Wizards. He was making millions of dollars, living in mansions, flying on private jets. While his old coach was having a stroke and losing everything. I lost my apartment. In 2010, Theodore continued. I was too proud to ask my kids for help. They live far away and have their own problems. I didn't want to be a burden. So you went to shelters? At first. But shelters are hard places. Lots of rules. Lots of angry people. And my mind. Sometimes I would forget where I was. Forget how I got there. It scared me. Theodore reached into his robe pocket and pulled out the envelope. It was more worn than Michael had thought. The edges were torn, and the paper was yellow with age. I lived in shelters for 3 years, Theodore said. Then I just gave up. The streets were easier. Nobody bothered me. I could sit under my bridge and remember better times. Your bridge. The one where you found me. I've been there for 5 years now. It's quiet. Safe. And I can practice. Practice. Theodore smiled for the first time since they sat down. I still coach, MJ. I coach myself. I dribble my tennis ball and remember all the drills I used to teach. Sometimes I pretend I'm teaching them to you again. Michael felt his heart break. Coach T, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you reach out? Call you? Theodore laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. You're Michael Jordan. You're the most famous basketball player in the world. You have bodyguards and assistants and people who decide who gets to talk to you. I'm just an old homeless man. You're not just anything, Michael said. You're my coach. Your family. Theodore held up the envelope. I wrote you letters. Lots of them. But I never sent them. What would I say? Hi. MJ, remember me? I'm the guy who taught you to dribble, and now I'm living in a cardboard box. You would say, help me, Michael said. That's what family does. They help each other. I watched you play, Theodore said softly. Every game I could find on TV. Every championship. Every time you won, I felt like I won too. Every time you lost, my heart broke. He touched the envelope again. I kept every newspaper article about you. Every magazine cover. Every story about your success. I was so proud, MJ. So proud of what you became. But you were suffering. I was surviving. There's a difference. Theodore looked at Michael. You want to know the truth? Finding you under that bridge tonight? That wasn't the worst part of my life. The worst part was thinking that I had been forgotten. That all those summers, all those lessons, all that time we spent together, that it didn't matter anymore. Michael stood up and walked to the window. The city looked different from up here. Smaller, quieter. He could see the highway where his car had broken down. He could see the bridge where Theodore had been living. It mattered, Michael said. It mattered. More than you know. I know, Theodore said. I can see it in your eyes. I can see that 14-year-old boy who just wanted someone to believe in him. Michael turned around. Coach T, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Okay. What's in that envelope? Theodore's face went pale. He clutched the envelope tighter. I'm not ready to show you. Not yet. Why not? Because once you see what's in here, everything changes. Your whole life, everything you think you know about your career, about how you got started, it all changes. Michael sat back down. What do you mean? Theodore stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the city, holding the envelope like it was made of gold. I made a choice once, he said quietly. A choice that changed both of our lives. I never told you about it because I didn't want you to feel guilty. But now I think you need to know. Tell me. Not tonight. I'm too tired tonight. But soon. I promise. Theodore turned away from the window. Can I ask you something, MJ? Anything. Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had never met? If your mother hadn't signed you up for that camp? Michael thought about it. I don't know. Maybe I would have quit basketball. Maybe I would have found a different sport. Maybe I would have become a regular person with a regular job. And would that have been so bad? I don't think so. But I'm glad I didn't have to find out. Theodore smiled. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, Chicago was going to sleep. Inside, two old friends were learning to know each other again. But the envelope sat on the table between them like a secret that was tired of being kept. Soon, Michael would learn the truth. Soon, he would understand just how much Theodore had given up for him. And soon, he would have to decide how to repay a debt that could never truly be repaid. The next morning, Michael woke up early. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Theodore under that bridge. He saw the envelope. He wondered what secret could be so important that Theodore had carried it for so many years. Michael got dressed and went to Theodore's room. He knocked softly. Come in, Theodore's voice called. Theodore was sitting by the window, eating breakfast. He looked better after a good night's sleep. His clothes were clean, his hair was combed, and his eyes were brighter. But the envelope was still on the table next to him. Good morning, Coach T, Michael said. How did you sleep? Like a baby, Theodore smiled. First real bed I've slept in for 5 years. I forgot how good it feels to have clean sheets. They ate breakfast together and talked about small things. The weather, the hotel, old memories from the basketball camp. But Michael could see that Theodore was nervous. He kept glancing at the envelope. Coach T, Michael finally said, I think we should go see a doctor today. A doctor? Why? You've been living on the streets for 5 years. You had a stroke. You need to make sure you're okay. Theodore shook his head. I can't afford a doctor. You don't need to afford anything. I'm taking care of it. MJ, I already told you. And I already told you, Michael interrupted. Your family. This is what family does. An hour later, they were at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Michael had called ahead, and the doctors were waiting for them. Theodore was nervous about all the attention, but Michael stayed with him. While Theodore was getting examined, Michael sat in the waiting room. A young nurse recognized him. Excuse me, she said quietly. Are you Michael Jordan? Yes. Could I get an autograph? It's for my son. He loves basketball. Michael signed a piece of paper for her. What's your son's name? Marcus. He's 13. He's actually a patient here. What's wrong with him? The nurse's face got sad. He has leukemia. He's been here for 3 months. Basketball is the only thing that makes him smile anymore. Michael thought about that. A 13-year-old boy, sick in the hospital, finding hope in basketball. Just like he had found hope in Theodore's gym all those years ago. That old man I brought in, Michael said. He's been talking about you for hours. About me? Well, not exactly about you. But he keeps saying he has something important to show you. He seems scared that you'll be angry. Angry? Why would I be angry? The nurse shrugged. I don't know. But he's been holding that envelope like it's made of gold. Won't let anyone touch it. When Theodore came out of his examination, the doctor pulled Michael aside. Your friend is in better shape than I expected, the doctor said. He's malnourished and dehydrated, but nothing that can't be fixed. The stroke damage is minor. His memory should be fine. Good, Michael said. That's good news. There is one thing, though. He seems very anxious about something. His blood pressure is high, and he keeps asking if you're still here. Is there something he's worried about? Michael looked through the window at Theodore. He was sitting on the examination table, holding that envelope. "Doctor, could I have a few minutes alone with him?" "Of course." Michael went back into the room. Theodore looked up at him with worried eyes. "Are you leaving?" Theodore asked. "No, coach. I'm not going anywhere." Theodore relaxed a little. "Good. I was afraid. I was afraid you might change your mind about helping me." "Why would I change my mind?" Theodore held up the envelope. His hands were shaking again, but not from being cold or sick. He was scared. "Because of this," he said. "Because of what's inside?" Michael sat down in the chair next to the examination table. "Coach T, whatever is in that envelope, it doesn't change anything. You saved my life when I was 14. You believed in me when nobody else did. Nothing in that envelope can change that." "You don't understand," Theodore said. "This isn't just about basketball. This is about choices. Big choices. Choices that changed everything." "Then tell me about them." Theodore took a deep breath. With shaking fingers, he opened the envelope. Inside were newspaper clippings, old letters, and photographs. He spread them out on the examination table. Michael looked at the papers. Most of them were about him. Newspaper articles from his high school days. College recruiting letters. Photos from his time at North Carolina. Articles about his NBA career. "You kept all of this?" Michael asked. "Every piece I could find," Theodore said. "For over 40 years. But then Theodore pulled out something else. A letter with an official letterhead. Chicago Bulls. Dated June 15th, 1978. Michael picked up the letter and read it. His eyes got wide. "Dear Mr. Brennan," the letter said, "we are pleased to offer you the position of assistant coach with the Chicago Bulls. We were impressed with your coaching philosophy and your work with young players. We believe you would be a valuable addition to our team. The position starts immediately and requires full-time commitment. Please respond by June 30th, 1978. Michael looked up at Theodore. "You were offered a job with the Bulls?" Theodore nodded. "In 1978, right after your first summer at my camp." "This is incredible, Coach T. You could have been coaching in the NBA." "Yes," Theodore said quietly. "I could have been." "So what happened? Why didn't you take it?" Theodore pulled out another piece of paper. It was a contract. A coaching contract with the Chicago Bulls. But it wasn't signed. "I turned it down," Theodore said. "You turned it down? Why?" Theodore looked at Michael with those same kind eyes he had always had. "Because I made you a promise." "What promise?" "I promised I would coach you for 3 more summers. I promised I would help you get ready for college basketball. And I always keep my promises." Michael felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "You turned down your dream job for me?" "It wasn't just my dream job, MJ. It was my only chance. I was 35 years old. Opportunities like that don't come twice." The room was quiet except for the sound of hospital machines in the hallway. Michael stared at the unsigned contract. "Coach T," he whispered, "you gave up everything for me." "No," Theodore said. "I gave up one thing to gain something better. I gave up a job to keep a promise. I gave up money to help a kid who needed me." Michael felt tears in his eyes. "But if you had taken that job, if I had taken that job, who would have coached you those next 3 summers? Who would have helped you develop your skills? Who would have prepared you for college?" Theodore gathered up the papers and put them back in the envelope. "I watched you play your freshman year at North Carolina," he said. "I watched you hit that shot to win the championship. And I knew I had made the right choice." But Michael wasn't sure it was the right choice. Theodore had sacrificed his entire career for a 14-year-old boy. He had given up his dreams so Michael could achieve his. And now Theodore was homeless while Michael was worth millions. "There's more," Theodore said, pulling out one last paper. "Something I wrote but never sent." It was a letter addressed to Michael Jordan, dated June 23rd, 1991, the year the Bulls won their first championship. "What does it say?" Michael asked. "Read it tonight," Theodore said. "When you're alone. When you have time to think about it." Theodore put the letter back in the envelope and handed it to Michael. "This is yours now," he said. "The whole story. Everything I never told you." Michael held the envelope. It felt heavier than it should have. "Coach T, we need to talk about this." "We need to." But Theodore was interrupted when the doctor came back in with a nurse. "Mr. Brennan, we need to run one more test," the doctor said. "Your blood pressure is still very high." As they wheeled Theodore away for more tests, Michael sat alone with the envelope. Inside was a letter that would explain everything. A letter that would show him just how much one man had sacrificed for a kid with a dream. But Michael wasn't sure he was ready to read it. Some truths were too big to handle all at once. Michael sat in the hospital waiting room, holding Theodore's envelope. The unsent letter from 1991 was inside, waiting to be read. But every time he reached for it, his hand stopped. Some secrets were meant to stay buried. Around him, families waited for news about their loved ones. Children played quietly in the corner. Nurses walked back and forth with clipboards and worried faces. Michael's phone buzzed. It was his mother. "Michael, I heard you missed the charity dinner last night. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mom. But I found someone. Someone from a long time ago." "Who?" "Coach Theodore Brennan. From the summer camp when I was 14. There was silence on the phone. Then his mother's voice got soft. "Coach T? Oh my goodness. How is he?" "Not good, Mom. He's been homeless for 5 years. Living under a bridge." "That sweet man. Michael, what happened to him?" Michael told her the story. About finding Theodore in the rain. About the medical bills and the stroke. About the envelope full of secrets. "That man changed your life," his mother said. "After that summer with him, you were different. More focused. More confident. I always wondered what happened to him. He sacrificed everything for me, Mom. He turned down a job with the Bulls to keep coaching me." "He what?" "Before Michael could explain, a doctor came running down the hallway. Behind him were 2 nurses pushing a gurney. "Family of Theodore Brennan?" the doctor called out. Michael stood up. "That's me. I'm his family. Your friend is having another stroke. We're taking him into emergency surgery now." The world seemed to stop. Michael watched as they wheeled Theodore past him. Theodore's eyes were closed. Machines were beeping. The envelope fell from Michael's hands and scattered papers across the floor. "Is he going to be okay?" Michael asked. "We don't know," the doctor said. "This stroke is more serious than his first one. Even if he survives, he might not remember anything. You should call his real family." "I am his real family," Michael said. The doctor looked at him strangely, then hurried away. Michael got down on his knees and picked up the scattered papers. Photos of him playing basketball, newspaper clippings about his championships, letters from colleges that wanted to recruit him, and there, in the middle of it all, was the unsent letter from 1991. Michael picked it up with shaking hands. The envelope was addressed to Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls, Chicago, Illinois. But it had never been mailed. He sat back down and opened it. "Dear MJ," the letter began. "I am watching you on TV right now. You just won your first NBA championship. I am crying as I write this, but they are happy tears. You did it. You became everything I knew you could become." Michael's eyes filled with tears as he kept reading. "I have something to tell you that I should have told you a long time ago. In 1978, after your first summer at my camp, the Chicago Bulls offered me a job. Assistant coach. It was everything I had ever dreamed of." Michael's hands were shaking now. But there was a problem. The job started immediately. 7 days a week, all year long. If I took it, I couldn't coach you anymore. I couldn't keep my promise to help you get ready for college. The letter continued. "I knew you weren't ready yet. You were good, but you needed more time. More coaching. More confidence. If I left you then, who would help you? Who would believe in you when you stopped believing in yourself?" Michael had to stop reading. He called his friend Scottie Pippen. "Scottie, I need you to come to Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Now." "What's wrong?" "It's hard to explain. Just come. Please." While he waited for Scottie, Michael called his assistant. "Cancel everything for the next week," he said. "I don't care what it is. Cancel it all. But Mr. Jordan, you have the Nike meeting on Thursday. Cancel it." When Scottie arrived, he found Michael sitting alone in the waiting room, surrounded by old papers and photographs. "What's all this?" Scottie asked. Michael told him everything. About finding Theodore under the bridge. About the Bulls' coaching job. About the sacrifice. Scottie picked up some of the newspaper clippings. They were from Michael's high school days, when he was just starting to become famous. "This guy saved all of this?" Scottie asked. "For over 40 years. Scottie shook his head. "Man, that's love. That's real love." Together, they looked through Theodore's collection. There were photos of Michael at North Carolina, articles about his NBA draft, stories about his first championship. "Look at this," Scottie said, holding up a rejection letter that it was from the Basketball Hall of Fame. Theodore had written to them in 1998, asking them to create a special award for youth coaches. The letter said they weren't interested. He tried to get recognition for coaches like himself, Michael said. They turned him down. There were more rejection letters. From sports magazines. From TV shows. From basketball organizations. Theodore had spent years trying to get people to notice the work that youth coaches did. Nobody listened. And look at these, Scotty said, pointing to a stack of bills. Asterisk medical bills from Theodore's wife's cancer treatment. Bills from his own. Stroke. Overdue rent notices. Final warnings from the electric company. The papers told the story of a man whose life fell apart piece by piece, while the boy he had helped became rich and famous. Michael picked up the unsent letter again and kept reading. I want you to know that I don't regret my choice. Watching you succeed has been the greatest joy of my life. Every championship you win, I win too. Every time you overcome a challenge. I remember that summer when you learned to overcome being cut from your team. The letter went on. I kept coaching other kids after you left. Hundreds of them over the years. Some went to college. Some became teachers and coaches themselves. One became a doctor. Another became a police officer. They all learned the same lessons I taught you. Work hard, never give up, and always help others. Michael looked up at Scotty. He kept coaching kids for decades. This wasn't just about me. But you were special to him, Scotty said. You can tell. The letter's final paragraph made Michael cry. I want you to promise me something, MJ. When your playing days are over, remember the kids who need help. Remember that somewhere out there is a 14-year-old who thinks he's not good enough. Be his Coach T. Give him what I gave you. That's all the payment I'll ever need. Michael folded the letter carefully. He never wanted anything from me. He just wanted me to help other kids the way he helped me. So why didn't he mail the letter? Because he was too proud, too humble. He didn't want me to feel guilty about his choices. A doctor came out of the surgery room. Michael and Scotty stood up quickly. How is he? Michael asked. He's alive, the doctor said. But it was close. Very close. Can we see him? He's unconscious. And when he wakes up, the doctor paused. I'm sorry, but there's a good chance he won't remember you. This stroke was severe. It could affect his long-term memory. Michael felt his heart sink. Theodore might forget everything. Their summer together. The lessons he taught. Even who Michael was. How long do we have? Michael asked. We don't know. He could wake up in an hour, or it could be days. And when he does wake up, we don't know what he'll remember. Michael looked at the unsent letter in his hands. Theodore had carried these secrets for over 40 years. He had sacrificed his dreams and never asked for anything in return. Now time was running out. If Theodore forgot everything, Michael would never get the chance to thank him properly. Never get the chance to repay the debt. But maybe there was still time. Maybe there was still a way to honor the man who had given up everything for a kid. With a dream, Michael had an idea. A big idea. But he would need help to make it work, and he would need Theodore to survive long enough to see it. Michael spent the night at the hospital. He sat in the chair next to Theodore's bed, watching his old coach sleep. Machines beeped quietly. Nurses came and went, checking on Theodore's condition. Theodore looked so small in the hospital bed. So fragile. It was hard to believe this was the same man who had taught a skinny 14-year-old to believe in himself. Around 3 in the morning, Theodore's eyes opened. MJ, he whispered. Is that you? I'm here, Coach T. I'm right here. Theodore tried to sit up, but he was too weak. I had the strangest dream. I dreamed that you found me under a bridge. That wasn't a dream, Michael said gently. That really happened. Theodore looked confused. Where am I? You're in the hospital. You had another stroke. But you're going to be okay. Another stroke? Theodore touched his head. I can't remember much. Michael's heart sank. The doctor had been right. Theodore's memory was affected. Do you remember who I am? Michael asked. Theodore stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled. You're little MJ. You're my basketball student. That's right. But you're so old now. How long have I been asleep? Michael didn't know how to answer that. Theodore's mind was mixing up the past and present. Coach T, do you remember giving me an envelope? Papers about the Chicago Bulls. Theodore looked blank. The Bulls? I used to want to coach for them. But that was a long time ago. You were offered a job with them. In 1978. Do you remember? 1978? Theodore shook his head. I can't remember. 1978. I can't remember much of anything. A nurse came in to check on Theodore. She smiled at Michael. Your friend is doing better, she said. His vital signs are stable. But the memory loss might be permanent. When the nurse left, Theodore grabbed Michael's hand. MJ, there's something important I need to tell you. Something about a choice I made. What choice? I can't remember exactly. But it was about you. About your future. Theodore's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, MJ. I'm scared I'm forgetting something important. Michael squeezed his hand. Don't worry about that now. Just focus on getting better. But Theodore wouldn't let it go. No, this is important. There was a letter. A job offer. I had to choose between. He stopped, frustrated. I can't remember. Michael made a decision. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the unsent letter that Theodore had written in 1991. Coach T, you wrote this letter to me 23 years ago, but you never sent it. Would you like me to read it to you? Theodore nodded weakly. Michael began reading the letter out loud. As he read, Theodore's eyes got wider. When Michael got to the part about the Bulls' coaching job, Theodore gasped. I remember now, Theodore whispered. I turned down the job. Yes, you did. I chose you over my dreams. You chose to keep your promise to me. Theodore was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at Michael with clear eyes. Do you understand what that means, MJ? I think so. No, I don't think you do. Theodore's voice got stronger. That job with the Bulls wasn't just any job. It was my only chance to coach professionally. I was 35 years old. Opportunities like that don't come twice. Michael nodded. I know. If I had taken that job, I could have been coaching in the NBA for 20 years. I could have been part of championship teams. I could have been famous, like you. But you chose me instead. I chose you because you needed me more than I needed. That job. Theodore sat up a little straighter. You were special, MJ. But you weren't ready yet. You needed 3 more summers of coaching. 3 more summers of believing in yourself. Theodore reached out and touched Michael's face. I knew that if I left you then, you might give up. You might decide that basketball wasn't for you, and the world would have lost something amazing. But you lost everything. No, Theodore said firmly. I gained everything. I gained the knowledge that I helped create one of the greatest basketball players who ever lived. I gained the satisfaction of keeping a promise to a kid who trusted me. Michael felt tears running down his face. Coach T, you gave up your whole career for me. And I would do it again. Theodore's voice was strong now, clear. Do you know why? Why? Because that's what coaches do. Real coaches. We don't coach for ourselves. We coach for our players. We succeed when they succeed. Theodore pointed to the window where the sun was starting to rise over Chicago. I want to tell you something, MJ. Something I should have told you a long time ago. What? After I turned down the Bulls job, I kept coaching at my summer camp. For 20 more years. I coached kids. Hundreds of them. Some went to college. Some became professionals. Most just became good people. I know. I read about them in your papers. But here's what you don't know. Every kid I coached, I told them about you. I told them about the skinny 14-year-old who got cut from his team but never gave up. I told them that if Michael Jordan could overcome rejection, they could overcome anything. Michael stared at Theodore. You used my story to help other kids? Your story became my greatest coaching tool. When kids wanted to quit, I told them about Michael Jordan. When they felt sorry for themselves, I told them about Michael Jordan. When they thought they weren't good enough, I told them about Michael Jordan. Theodore smiled. Don't you see? My sacrifice wasn't just about you. It was about all the kids who came after you. All the kids who needed to hear that failure isn't the end of the story. Coach T, I need you to understand something. Theodore interrupted. I didn't lose my career when I turned down that Bulls job. I found my real career. My purpose. My calling. What do you mean? My job wasn't to coach professional basketball players. My job was to coach kids who thought they couldn't be professional basketball players. My job was to plant seeds of hope in young hearts. Theodore lay back on his pillow, exhausted from talking. But his eyes were bright and clear. MJ, do you remember what I taught you that first summer? You taught me a lot of things. The most important thing. What was the most important thing? Michael thought back to that old gym. To the skinny kid who wanted to quit. To the coach who wouldn't let him. You taught me that size is in your heart, not your height. That's right. And what else? That champions aren't made when they win. They're made when they lose and decide to keep trying. And that when your playing days are over, you should help other kids the way someone helped you. Theodore smiled. You remember. You remember everything. I remember. Then you understand. My sacrifice wasn't a sacrifice at all. It was an investment. An investment in you, and in all the kids you would inspire, and in all the kids those kids would inspire. Theodore closed his eyes. That's the real game, MJ, not basketball. Life. Teaching kids that they're stronger than they think, that they're better than they know, that they matter. Michael sat quietly, processing everything Theodore had told him. All these years, he had thought of Theodore as the coach who helped him become Michael Jordan. But now he understood that Theodore had used Michael Jordan to help hundreds of other kids become the best versions of themselves. Coach T. Yes, I need to ask you something. Are you ready to help me with one more project? Theodore opened his eyes. What kind of project? The biggest project of our lives. Something that will help kids for generations to come. What do you have in mind? Michael smiled. Trust me, coach. Just like I trusted you all those years ago. Theodore studied Michael's face. Then he smiled back. Okay, MJ. I trust you. What do you need me to do? Just get better. Get strong. And be ready for the biggest surprise of your life. As the sun rose over Chicago, Michael made phone calls. He called his business manager. He called Nike. He called the Bulls organization. He called the mayor of Chicago. His plan was ambitious. Maybe impossible. But if anyone could make the impossible happen, it was Michael Jordan. And he was about to prove that the best way to honor a great coach was to become one yourself. Over the next 3 days, Michael barely left the hospital. He spent his time in 2 places, sitting with Theodore and making phone calls in the hallway. Theodore was getting stronger. His memory was coming back piece by piece. He could walk to the bathroom by himself now. He could eat solid food. Most importantly, he was starting to smile again. You know what I miss most? Theodore asked Michael on the 3rd day. What's that? Teaching. I miss teaching kids how to play basketball. Michael looked up from his phone. What if I told you that you could teach again? At my age? With my health? Who would trust me with their kids? I would. Theodore laughed. MJ, you don't have kids who need basketball lessons. No, but I know kids who do. Before Theodore could ask what he meant, a young boy appeared in the doorway. He was about 13, thin and pale. He walked with a slow, careful step. Excuse me, the boy said quietly. Are you really Michael Jordan? I am, Michael said. What's your name? Marcus. I'm a patient here. The nurses told me you were visiting someone. Michael remembered the nurse mentioning Marcus, the 13-year-old with leukemia who loved basketball. Come in, Marcus. I'd like you to meet someone. Very special. Marcus walked slowly into the room. He stared at Theodore with curious eyes. Marcus, Michael said, this is Coach Theodore Brennan. He was my first real basketball coach. Really? Marcus's eyes lit up. You coached Michael Jordan? Theodore smiled. When he was about your age. He was terrible at first. Hey, Michael protested, but he was smiling too. It's true, Theodore said to Marcus. He couldn't dribble with his left hand. He was afraid to shoot from outside. And he was so skinny that a strong wind could knock him over. Marcus giggled. It was the first time he had laughed in weeks. But you know what? Theodore continued. He worked harder than anyone I ever coached. And he never gave up, no matter how many times he failed. Marcus sat down in the chair next to Theodore's bed. I love basketball, but I'm not very good at it either. What makes you think you're not good? I'm too small. And too slow. And now I'm sick, so I can't play at all. Theodore looked at Michael, then back at Marcus. Can I tell you a secret? Sure. Basketball isn't really about being big or fast or strong. It's about being smart. It's about working hard. And it's about never giving up. That's what my mom says too. Your mom is right. You know what the most important thing in basketball is? Marcus shook his head. Heart. And you can't measure heart with a ruler. For the next hour, Theodore talked to Marcus about basketball. He taught him how to shoot properly using just his hands. He showed him footwork while sitting in bed. He explained strategy and teamwork. Marcus hung on every word. For the first time since he got sick, he forgot about being in the hospital. He forgot about being scared. He just listened to an old coach who believed in him. When Marcus left to go back to his room, Theodore turned to Michael. That boy reminds me of you, he said. How so? He's lost his confidence. He thinks he's not good enough. But I can see it in his eyes. He has heart. You could help him. How? I'm an old man in a hospital bed. Michael sat down and looked at Theodore seriously. Coach T, I have something to tell you. Something big. What? I've been making phone calls for 3 days. I've been talking to people. Important people. And I have a plan. What kind of plan? Plan to build something. Something permanent. Something that will help kids like Marcus for generations to come. Theodore looked confused. I don't understand. Michael took a deep breath. I want to build a basketball academy. A place where kids can learn to play basketball, but more importantly, learn to believe in themselves. That sounds wonderful, MJ. But what does that have to do with me? Everything. I want you to run it. Theodore stared at Michael. Run it? I can't run anything. I'm homeless. I'm old. I just had a stroke. You're not homeless anymore. An age is just a number. And your stroke didn't affect the most important thing about you. What's that? Your ability to see potential in kids that they can't see in themselves. Michael stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the Chicago skyline. Somewhere out there was the spot where his car had broken down. The bridge where he had found Theodore. Coach T, do you remember where your old summer camp used to be? Of course. On the south side. That old gym where I taught you. What if I told you that gym is still empty? Is it? It is. And what if I told you that the building next to it is also empty? And the building next to that? Theodore sat up straighter. What are you saying? I'm saying we're going to buy all 3 buildings. We're going to tear them down and build something beautiful. Something modern. Something that will last forever. MJ, that would cost millions of dollars. I have millions of dollars. But why would you do that? Michael turned around and looked at Theodore. Because 46 years ago, a coach believed in a kid who had just been cut from his team. Because that coach gave up his dreams so the kid could achieve his. Because that kid became successful and never forgot where he came from. Theodore's eyes filled with tears. You want to build this academy for me? I want to build it with you. I want you to be the director. I want you to hire the coaches. I want you to decide which kids get scholarships. I want you to teach them the same lessons you taught me. I don't know if I can do that anymore. You just spent an hour coaching Marcus. You made him smile for the first time in weeks. You made him believe in himself again. If that's not coaching, I don't know what is. Theodore was quiet for a long time. Michael could see him thinking, processing, imagining. What would we call it? Theodore finally asked. The Theodore Brennan Youth Basketball Academy. No, Theodore said quickly. Not my name. This should be about the kids, not about me. Then what? Theodore smiled. The Second Chance Academy. Because everyone deserves a second chance to pursue their dreams. Michael felt chills run down his spine. It was perfect. The Second Chance Academy, he repeated. I love it. But MJ, I need you to promise me something. Anything. This can't just be charity. These kids need to earn their spot. They need to work hard. They need to learn that nothing good comes easy. Absolutely. And we need to teach them more than basketball. We need to teach them about life, about respect, about giving back to their community. That's exactly what I was thinking. Theodore lay back on his pillow, but his eyes were bright with excitement. When do we start? As soon as you're ready. As soon as the doctors say you can leave the hospital. And you really think people will support this? Michael smiled. Coach T, I've already got commitments from Nike, the Bulls organization, the city of Chicago, and about 50 other people and companies. Everyone wants to help once they hear your story. My story. The story of a coach who gave up everything to help kids achieve their dreams. The story of a man who turned down fame and fortune to keep a promise to a 14-year-old boy. Theodore shook his head in amazement. I never thought of it as a story. I just thought of it as doing the right thing. That's exactly why it's such a good story. A nurse came in to check on Theodore. She smiled when she saw how happy he looked. You seem much better today, Mr. Brennan, she said. I feel much better. I feel like I have something to live for again. After the nurse left, Theodore grabbed Michael's hand. MJ, are you sure about this? Building an academy is a huge responsibility. I'm sure. But I need you to be sure too. I need you to promise me that you'll be there. That you'll help me make this dream come true. Theodore squeezed Michael's hand. I promise. Just like I promised 46 years ago. Good. Because we have a lot of work to do. Where do we start? Michael pulled out his phone and showed Theodore a photo. It was an architect's drawing of a beautiful, modern building with basketball courts, classrooms, and a gymnasium. We start by building something that will last forever, Michael said. Something that will help kids for generations to come. Theodore stared at the drawing. It was everything he had ever dreamed of. A place where kids could learn and grow and discover their potential. It's beautiful, he whispered. It's just the beginning, Michael said. Wait until you see what we have planned for the opening ceremony. But that surprise would have to wait. Michael wanted everything to be perfect before he revealed the final piece of his plan, the piece that would change Theodore's life forever. 3 weeks later, Theodore was out of the hospital. Michael had rented him a beautiful apartment just 10 minutes from Northwestern Memorial. It had big windows, a comfortable bed, and a small kitchen where Theodore could cook his own meals. But, more importantly, it was close to the children's hospital ward. Every day, Theodore would walk back to the hospital to visit young patients. Kids with cancer, kids with broken bones, kids who were scared and lonely. He would bring a basketball and teach them simple moves. He would tell them stories about overcoming challenges. He would help them believe in themselves again. Marcus became his first regular student. The boy was getting stronger every day, and his love for basketball was growing. Other kids started joining them. Soon, Theodore had a small group of young patients who looked forward to his visits. "You're a natural teacher," one of the nurses told him. "These kids light up when they see you coming." Theodore felt alive again. For the first time in years, he had a purpose. He was doing what he was born to do, helping kids discover their potential. Meanwhile, Michael was busy with construction plans. The old gym where Theodore had coached him was being torn down. In its place, workers were building something amazing. Glass walls, modern basketball courts, classrooms with computers, and a gymnasium that could seat 500 people. The Second Chance Academy was painted in big letters above the main entrance. Every few days, Michael would drive Theodore to the construction site. They would put on hard hats and walk around, watching the building take shape. "I can't believe this is really happening," Theodore said during one visit. "Believe it," Michael replied. "This is your dream coming true." But the academy wasn't the only surprise Michael had planned. He was also tracking down Theodore's former students, kids who had gone through his summer camps over the years. Adults now, with families and careers of their own. One of them was Jerome Washington. He had attended Theodore's camp in 1985 when he was 15 years old. Now he was a successful businessman who owned 3 restaurants in Chicago. "Coach Brennan changed my life," Jerome told Michael when they met at his restaurant. "I was headed for trouble, hanging with the wrong crowd. But that summer camp taught me discipline, taught me that I could be something better. Would you like to see him again?" Michael asked that Jerome's eyes lit up. "Are you serious? I would love that." Michael arranged for Jerome to visit Theodore at his apartment. When Theodore opened the door and saw Jerome, he nearly cried. "Little Jay," Theodore said, "look at you. You're all grown up." They spent hours talking about the old days. Jerome told Theodore about his restaurants, his wife, his 3 children. He told him how the lessons from basketball camp had helped him become successful in business. "You taught me that failure is just practice for success," Jerome said. "Every time my restaurants had problems, I remembered that. Every time I wanted to give up, I remembered Coach T." Jerome wasn't the only one. Over the next few weeks, Michael found more of Theodore's former students. A teacher named Maria, who now coached girls basketball at a high school. A police officer named David, who ran youth programs in tough neighborhoods. A doctor named Patricia, who worked with children. All of them had been shaped by their time with Theodore. All of them wanted to thank him for changing their lives. "I had no idea," Theodore told Michael after meeting with several of his former students. "I knew I was teaching them basketball, but I didn't know I was changing their futures." "That's what great coaches do," Michael said. "They plant seeds without knowing what will grow." As the academy construction continued, Michael also worked on another project. He contacted the local school district and arranged partnerships with 10 elementary schools in low-income neighborhoods. Kids from those schools would get free access to the academy's programs. He also set up scholarship funds for high school students who wanted to continue their education. And he created a mentorship program where successful adults would work with academy students. "This is bigger than I ever imagined," Theodore said when Michael showed him all the plans. "It needs to be big," Michael replied. "There are a lot of kids out there who need what you have to offer." The academy was scheduled to open in 6 months. But Michael had one more surprise planned. Something that would happen much sooner. 3 months after finding Theodore under the bridge, Michael called him with exciting news. "Coach T, how would you like to go to a Bulls game?" "A Bulls game? I haven't been to one in years." "Well, you're going to this one. Front row seats. My treat." "That's very kind of you, MJ, but no buts. The game is tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 6. The next evening, Michael arrived at Theodore's apartment wearing a suit and tie. Theodore was dressed in his best clothes, clothes that Michael had bought for him. They drove to the United Center together. Theodore was excited but nervous. He hadn't been in crowds this big in years. "Are you sure about the front row seats?" Theodore asked. "That seems like a lot." "Trust me," Michael said with a mysterious smile. "You're going to want good seats for this game." When they arrived at the United Center, something strange happened. Instead of going to their seats, Michael led Theodore down a hallway toward the team locker rooms. "Where are we going?" Theodore asked. "You'll see." They stopped at a door marked private. Michael knocked, and the door opened. Inside was a room full of people. Theodore recognized some of them: Jerome, Maria, David, Patricia, and other former students. But there were also people he didn't know. Important-looking people in expensive suits. In the center of the room was a podium with microphones. Cameras were set up around the walls. This wasn't just a visit. This was an event. "What's going on?" Theodore asked. Michael put his hand on Theodore's shoulder. "Coach T, remember when you told me that your greatest dream was to be recognized for youth coaching?" "Yes, but, well, tonight that dream comes." "True." A woman in a business suit approached them. She had a warm smile and carried a official-looking folder. "Mr. Brennan," she said, "my name is Linda Chun. I'm from the Basketball Hall of Fame. We have something very special to discuss with you." Theodore looked at Michael, then back at Linda Chun. His hands started shaking. "The Basketball Hall of Fame?" he whispered. "That's right," Linda said. "Thanks to Mr. Jordan's nomination and the testimonies of your former students, you are being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in a special category for youth development coaches." Theodore's legs went weak. Michael caught his arm and helped him to a chair. You're inducting me," Theodore said. "Your impact on youth basketball has been extraordinary," Linda continued. "Not just with Michael Jordan, but with hundreds of young people over 4 decades. You represent the very best of what coaching should be." Theodore looked around the room at all the faces staring at him. His former students were smiling and crying at the same time. Michael was beaming with pride. "This can't be real," Theodore whispered. "It's real," Michael said. "Coach T, you're going to the Hall of Fame." For a moment, the room was completely quiet. Then Jerome started clapping. Maria joined in. Soon everyone was applauding and cheering. Theodore sat in his chair, overwhelmed by emotion. After years of rejection and being ignored, he was finally getting the recognition he deserved. But the biggest surprise was still to come. The Hall of Fame ceremony was incredible, but Michael had saved the biggest surprise for last. 3 months later, on a sunny Saturday morning in April, he called Theodore with mysterious instructions. "Coach T, I need you to dress up nice today. Wear that new suit I bought you." "Why? What's happening?" "Just trust me. I'll pick you up at noon." When Michael arrived, Theodore was waiting outside his apartment building. He looked handsome in his navy blue suit and tie. His health had improved dramatically over the past 6 months. Good food, regular doctor visits, and most importantly, having a purpose again had transformed him. "You look good, Coach T," Michael said as they drove through Chicago. "I feel good. Better than I have in years." Theodore looked out the window. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." They drove toward the south side, toward the neighborhood where Theodore had run his summer camp 46 years ago. As they got closer, Theodore started recognizing streets and landmarks. "Are we going to see the academy construction?" Theodore asked. "Something like that." When they turned the corner onto Theodore's old street, both men gasped. The entire block was filled with people, hundreds and hundreds of people. There were news trucks, camera crews, and a stage set up in front of the new building. But this wasn't the construction site Theodore remembered. The building was finished, complete, beautiful. The Second Chance Academy was spelled out in gold letters above glass doors. The parking lot was full of cars with license plates from all over the country. Banners hung from light poles. A red carpet led from the street to the main entrance. "What is all this?" Theodore asked. "This," Michael said with a huge smile, "is your grand opening." Michael parked the car, and immediately people started recognizing them. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. But Michael guided Theodore through the crowd toward the stage. As they walked, Theodore started recognizing faces in the crowd. Jerome was there with his family. Maria brought her entire girls' basketball team. David came in his police uniform. Patricia wore her doctor's coat. But there were also faces Theodore didn't recognize. Hundreds of young people, teenagers and college students, all wearing t-shirts that said Coach T changed my life. Who are all these kids? Theodore asked Michael. Students of your students. Michael replied. Kids who were coached by people you coached. Kids who were taught by teachers you inspired. Kids whose lives were changed because you changed someone else's life 46 years ago. Theodore stopped walking. He looked around, at all the young faces staring at him with respect and admiration. Many of them were holding signs. Thank you, Coach Brennan. Second chances save lives. Size is in your heart. I don't understand, Theodore whispered. Michael put his arm around Theodore's shoulders. Coach T, do you remember what you taught me? About planting seeds. Yes. Well, today you get to see the forest that grew from those seeds. They reached the stage where a microphone was waiting. Michael helped Theodore up the steps. When the crowd saw them, everyone started cheering and applauding. The noise was incredible. Michael stepped up to the microphone first. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to celebrate a very special man. A man who gave up his dreams so that others could achieve theirs. A man who taught us that the size of your heart matters more than the size of your body. Please welcome the founder and director of the Second Chance Academy, Coach Theodore Brennan. The crowd erupted in cheers. Theodore walked slowly to the microphone, overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. I don't know what to say, he began. His voice was shaky, but the microphone carried it clearly to everyone. 46 years ago, I was just a teacher who loved basketball. I had a little summer camp in an old gym right here on this spot. I thought I was just teaching kids how to dribble and shoot. I had no idea I was changing lives. The crowd was completely quiet, hanging on every word. One of those kids was a skinny 14-year-old named Michael Jordan. He had just been cut from his high school team. He wanted to quit basketball forever. But we worked together that summer, and he learned something important. He learned that failure is just practice for success. Theodore looked at Michael, who was standing at the side of the stage with tears in his eyes. I made a choice that summer. The Chicago Bulls offered me a coaching job. It was my dream job, but I had made a promise to help Michael for 3 more summers. So I turned it down. People in the crowd gasped. Many of them were hearing this story for the first time. People have called it a sacrifice, Theodore continued. But it wasn't a sacrifice. It was an investment. An investment in a young man's future. An investment in all the lives he would touch. An investment in all of you. Theodore gestured to the crowd. Every championship Michael won, every record he broke, every kid he inspired, that all started in a little gym on this spot. That all started with a choice to keep a promise. The crowd started applauding again, but Theodore held up his hand. But I want you to understand something. This academy isn't about me. It's not even about Michael Jordan. It's about you. It's about every kid who thinks they're not good enough. Every kid who's been told they're too small, too slow, too different. Theodore's voice got stronger. This academy is for kids who need someone to believe in them. Kids who need to learn that their dreams are possible if they're willing to work for them. Kids who need to hear that size is in your heart, not your height. The crowd was cheering again, but Theodore wasn't finished. I want to make a promise to all of you today. Just like I made a promise to a 14-year-old Michael Jordan 46 years ago. This academy will always be here for kids who need a second chance. We will always believe in potential, even when others don't see it. We will always teach that failure is just practice for success. Theodore stepped back from the microphone as the crowd gave him a standing ovation that lasted for 5 minutes. But Michael wasn't done with surprises yet. When the applause finally died down, Michael returned to the microphone. Coach T, you've seen the outside of your academy, but you haven't seen the inside yet. Would you like a tour? Of course. Michael led Theodore and the crowd through the front doors of the academy. The inside was even more beautiful than the outside. There were 4 basketball courts with gleaming wooden floors. There were classrooms with computers and smartboards. There was a library, a cafeteria, and offices for coaches and counselors. But the most impressive room was the main gymnasium. It seated exactly 500 people, just like Michael had planned. The walls were covered with motivational quotes. Some of them were famous sayings from great coaches, but many of them were quotes from Theodore himself. Size is in your heart, not your height. Champions are made when they lose and decide to keep trying. Failure is just practice for success. Plant seeds of hope in young hearts. At the center of the gym was a bronze statue. It showed a coach kneeling down next. to a young player, teaching him how to hold a basketball. The plaque at the base read, "In honor of Coach Theodore Brennan and all the youth coaches who plant seeds of greatness in young hearts. Their sacrifices make champions possible." Theodore stared at the statue with his mouth open. Is that supposed to be me? And me?" Michael said, pointing to the young player in the statue. "That's us, Coach T. That's the moment that changed everything." Theodore walked up to the statue and touched the bronze plaque. His name was carved in stone, permanent and lasting. "I can't believe this is real," he whispered. "It's real," Michael said. "And it's just the beginning. We have over 300 kids signed up for programs starting next week. We have scholarships for 50 high school students. We have partnerships with 20 schools across Chicago." Theodore turned around and looked at all the people filling the gymnasium. Young faces, old faces, families, coaches, former students. All of them there to celebrate a man who had spent his life helping others achieve their dreams. "But there's one more surprise," Michael announced to the crowd. "Coach T, you remember Marcus, don't you? The young patient from the hospital?" Of course. A 13-year-old boy walked out from the crowd. It was Marcus, but he looked completely different. He was healthier, stronger, and he was bouncing a basketball. "Hi, Coach T," Marcus said with a big smile. "Guess what? I'm cancer-free, and I'm going to be the first student at your academy." Theodore knelt down and hugged Marcus. Both of them were crying happy tears. "Are you ready to learn some real basketball?" Theodore asked. "I've been ready since the day I met you," Marcus replied. Michael stepped up to the microphone one final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Second Chance Academy is now officially open." The crowd erupted in cheers. Balloons fell from the ceiling. Confetti filled the air. And in the middle of it all, an old coach and a young student walked onto the basketball court together. Theodore picked up a basketball and started teaching Marcus. The same dribbling drill he had taught Michael Jordan 46 years ago. The cycle was beginning again. A new generation of kids would learn that size is in your heart, not your height. They would learn that failure is just practice for success. They would learn that someone believed in them, even when they didn't believe in themselves. And somewhere, in the crowd, taking pictures and smiling with pride, Michael Jordan watched his old coach do what he did best: plant seeds of hope in young hearts. The debt had been repaid. But more importantly, the legacy would continue forever. 6 months after the academy opened, Michael sat in his office overlooking the basketball courts. Through the big windows, he could see Theodore working with a group of young players. At 80 years old, Theodore moved slower than he used to, but his passion for teaching was stronger than ever. Marcus was there too, now one of Theodore's assistant coaches. The boy who had been sick in the hospital was now healthy and strong, helping other kids learn the fundamentals of basketball and life. The academy had exceeded everyone's expectations. Over 500 kids were enrolled in programs. Dozens of teenagers had earned college scholarships. Local crime rates in the neighborhood had dropped significantly. Most importantly, the academy had become a symbol of hope for the entire city. But the real success wasn't measured in numbers. It was measured in the smiles on kids' faces, in the confidence of teenagers who had learned to believe in themselves, in the families who had found a safe place for their children to grow and learn. That Michael's assistant knocked on his office door. "Mr. Jordan, there's someone here to see you." A young woman walked into the office. She looked to be in her 20s, with kind eyes and a warm smile. She was carrying a folder full of papers. "Mr. Jordan, my name is Sarah Chun. I'm a reporter with Sports Illustrated. I'm writing a story about the academy and Coach Brennan's impact on youth basketball." "Nice to meet you," Michael said. "What can I help you with?" Sarah sat down and opened her folder. "I've been researching Coach Brennan's career for the past month. I've interviewed dozens of his former students. The stories are incredible." She pulled out a list of names. "Did you know that Coach Brennan taught over 800 kids during his 40 years of coaching?" Michael shook his head. "I had no idea it was that many. Of those 800 kids, 67 went on to play college basketball. 15 became professional athletes in various sports. But here's the really amazing part. Over 400 of them became teachers, coaches, social workers, or chose other careers helping young people." Michael felt chills run down his spine. 400. They all say the same thing. Coach Brennan taught them that success isn't about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you help others achieve. Sarah showed Michael a photo. It was from a high school graduation ceremony in Detroit. A young woman was giving the valedictorian speech. The caption read, Maria Rodriguez, first in her family to graduate high school, now attending Northwestern University on a basketball scholarship. Maria was one of your academy's first students, Sarah explained. She says Coach Brennan changed her life by teaching her that being small didn't mean dreaming small. Michael looked at the photo. He remembered Maria. She was one of the shyest kids in the program when she started. Now she was confident, successful, and heading to college. There are hundreds of stories like this, Sarah continued. Kids who were failing in school but learned discipline through basketball. Kids who were getting into trouble but found purpose through coaching younger children. Kids who thought they had no future but discovered they could create their own opportunities. Sarah pulled out another document. This is a study done by the University of Chicago. They tracked the long-term outcomes of kids who participated in programs at the Second Chance Academy. The results are remarkable. Michael read the summary. Academy students were 3 times more likely to graduate high school. They were 4 times more likely to attend college. They had significantly lower rates of involvement with the criminal justice system. And most surprisingly, they were twice as likely to become mentors or coaches themselves. Coach Brennan's philosophy is creating a ripple effect, Sarah said. Every kid he helps goes on to help other kids. It's like he's multiplying his impact exponentially. Michael thought about that. Theodore had always said that coaching wasn't about winning games. It was about developing people. Now there was scientific proof that his methods worked. Can I ask you something personal, Mr. Jordan? Sarah said, Sure. Why did you do all this? Building the academy, honoring Coach Brennan, spending millions of dollars? You could have just given him money and walked away. Michael was quiet for a moment. It was a question he had asked himself many times. Because I realized something, he finally said. All my success, all my championships, all my achievements, they started with one person believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Coach T didn't just teach me basketball. He taught me that I mattered, that I had value, that I could overcome any obstacle if I was willing to work hard enough. Michael stood up and walked to the window. Below, Theodore was teaching a group of 8-year-olds how to dribble with their weak hand. The same drill he had taught Michael 46 years ago. But here's what I really learned, Michael continued. The greatest gift isn't what you receive. It's what you give. Coach T gave me the greatest gift possible. He believed in me. And now I get to give that same gift to other kids. Sarah was writing quickly, trying to capture every word. You know what the best part is? Michael said, I don't have to do the hard work. Coach T does. I just provided the building and the money. He provides the magic. He provides the belief. He provides the hope. Is that why you named him director of the academy instead of just honoring him? Exactly. This isn't about the past. This is about the future. Coach T isn't finished coaching. He's just getting started with the most important phase of his career. Sarah closed her folder and stood up. Thank you for your time, Mr. Jordan. This is going to be a beautiful story. After Sarah left, Michael walked down to the main gymnasium. Theodore was working one-on-one with a 10-year-old boy named James. The boy was frustrated because he couldn't make his free throws. I'm never going to be good at this, James said, throwing the ball down in anger. Theodore picked up the ball and sat down on the bleachers. He patted the seat next to him, and James sat down reluctantly. Can I tell you about a boy I used to? Coach, Theodore said. I guess. This boy was 14 years old. He had just been cut from his high school basketball team. He was ready to quit the sport forever. He thought he would never be good enough. James looked interested. What happened to him? Well, he kept practicing. He kept working. He kept trying, even when he failed. And you know what? He became pretty good at basketball. How good? Theodore smiled. Good enough to win 6 NBA championships. James's eyes got wide. Really? Who was it? Theodore pointed across the gym to where Michael was talking with some parents. That's him right there. Michael Jordan. James stared at Michael in amazement. Michael Jordan got cut from his team? He sure did. And if he had given up after that, he never would have become Michael Jordan. He would have just been another kid who quit when things got hard. Theodore stood up and handed James the basketball. So what do you think? Are you ready to try those free throws again? James nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. For the next hour, Theodore worked with James on his shooting form. By the end of the session, James was making 7 out of 10 free throws. You see, Theodore said, you just needed to believe in yourself. As the day ended and families came to pick up their children, Michael found Theodore sitting alone in his office. The old coach was looking through files of new student applications. How many new kids are starting next week? Michael asked. 37, Theodore replied. All different ages, all different skill levels. Some are confident, some are scared. Some come from good families, others from difficult situations. Sounds like a challenge. Theodore smiled. Sounds like an opportunity. Michael sat down across from Theodore's desk. Coach T, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret turning down that Bulls job all those years ago? Theodore thought for a moment. You want an honest answer? Always. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I had taken that job. I probably would have made more money. I might have been famous. I definitely wouldn't have ended up homeless. Michael felt a pang of guilt. I'm sorry that happened to you. Don't be sorry, Theodore said quickly. Because if I had taken that job, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't have this academy. I wouldn't have all these amazing kids to work with. And most importantly, I wouldn't have the satisfaction of knowing that I kept my promise to you. Theodore leaned back in his chair. MJ, I've learned something important in my 80 years. Success isn't about what you accumulate. It's about what you contribute. It's not about how famous you become. It's about how many lives you touch. Is that why you love coaching so much? I love coaching because every child is a universe of potential waiting to be discovered. Every kid who walks through those doors has something special inside them. My job is to help them find it. Theodore pulled out a photo from his desk drawer. It was from the academy's opening day, showing him teaching Marcus how to dribble. You know what my greatest achievement is? Theodore asked. What? It's not coaching Michael Jordan. It's not this academy. It's not even the Hall of Fame. Then what is it? Theodore smiled. It's that 46 years later, you still call me coach. T, after all your success, after all your fame, you still remember that I'm your coach. That means I succeeded at the most important thing a teacher can do. What's that? I planted something in your heart that grew into something beautiful. And now you're planting seeds in other hearts. The lesson isn't finished when the student leaves. It's finished when the student becomes the teacher. Michael felt tears in his eyes. Thank you, Coach T, for everything. Thank you, MJ, for giving an old coach one more chance to do what he loves. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set over Chicago. Outside, kids were playing pickup basketball games on the outdoor courts. Their laughter echoed through the building. One more thing, Theodore said as they prepared to leave for the day. What's that? I want you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that when I'm gone, you'll keep this place running. Promise me that there will always be a place for kids who need someone to believe in them. I promise, Michael said. But you're not going anywhere for a long time. Theodore chuckled. We'll see about that. But I'm not worried. I know this academy will outlast both of us. Because we didn't just build a building. We built an idea. We built hope. And hope is the one thing that never dies. As they walked out of the academy together, Michael realized that Theodore was right. The building was just brick and mortar. The Real Academy was the belief that every child deserves a chance to discover their potential. That belief would live on long after both men were gone. Sometimes the greatest champions are the ones who never played in the big games. They're the ones who taught the champions how to win. And sometimes the greatest victories happen not when someone achieves their dreams, but when they help someone else achieve theirs. Theodore Brennan had learned that lesson long ago. And now, through the Second Chance Academy, thousands of young people would learn it too. The story that began under a bridge on a rainy night had become a legacy that would last forever. This incredible story shows us that sometimes the greatest champions are the ones who never played in the big games. They're the ones who taught the champions how to win. Coach Theodore's sacrifice reminds us that one person's belief can change everything. Where are you listening from? Drop your city in the comments below. I love connecting with viewers from around the world. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread more stories of kindness and hope to people who need them most. And don't miss the amazing story appearing on your screen right now. It's another incredible tale that will inspire you. Click on it and let's continue this journey of discovering how ordinary people do extraordinary things. Thank you for listening. And remember, you never know whose life you might change with a simple act of kindness.